There is no such thing as a good gun. All firearms can kill people, and will kill people if placed into the wrong hands. But some guns are worse than others. In this video, I will be using the digital sandbox platform Garry's Mod to demonstrate the true horror behind the infamous machine of destruction that is the AR-15 assault rifle. With using Garry's Mod and my own script writing skills, I will present the following: what the AR-15 itself is and what makes it so horrific, and a realistic digital simulation of the weapon functioning. I will also be presenting overviews and further digital simulations of other more humane firearm options for a potential gun owner to possess instead of the AR-15, which are less capable of causing a mass shooting, as well as non-firearm options for self-defense and home defense. I must stress once more what was said in the disclaimer. Violence should be avoided if at all possible. There is no obligation for an individual to own a weapon of any kind, especially not a firearm. Calling 911 is always an option if you don't feel safe. This video is primarily hypothetical in nature, as it regards the specific scenario in which an individual feels obligated to defend themselves or their loved ones from dangerous persons. The AR-15 was designed in 1956 by the American manufacturer Armalite, based off the older AR-10. It is an assault rifle, meaning that it is a select-fire rifled firearm that uses a medium-caliber cartridge. This weapon can be bought by just about any American citizen who passes a short and most likely non-thorough background check, for less than $900. It is used as a base for many of the most popular military weapons in the world, including the M4 carbine, the M727, and the darkly iconic M16. The AR-15 is the most popular automatic weapon for civilian use in the United States. It is also the most common weapon behind mass shootings of innocent people. Its evil is surpassed only by its eternally infamous Russian sister, the infernal horror that is the AK-47. The AR-15 has taken the lives of countless innocent men, women, and children, one deafening shot at a time, and thanks to the current state of our government, will continue to do so. Your husband, wife, brother, sister, mother, or father could be next. You could be next. All firearms are deadly, and thus all firearms can be used for evil. But this weapon is more than deadly. The AR-15 is a monster. An angel of death with a thirst for human blood. Now, what makes this machine so deadly? What better way to find out than watching it in action in a safe environment? Using the Garry's Mod physics engine, we can simulate with alarming accuracy not only the AR-15 itself, but also how it performs when used on a digital shooting range filled with various stationary targets. Let's get going. This is an AR-15. In this simulation, the weapon is fully functional and can interact with the environment in a realistic way. By pressing C, we can view the simulated upgrade system that allows the weapon to be given attachments and extensions. Without further ado, it's time to set this beast loose. As you can see, the weapon is extremely accurate and powerful enough to enact a lot of force on those metal buckets, and can eviscerate the watermelons and glass cider jugs instantaneously. Of course, this simulation is not 100% accurate, so an actual instance of the weapon may have a greater or lesser effect than a real-life bucket. Note the ammunition counter in the corner of the screen. Civilian owners of the AR-15 are allowed detachable magazines capable of carrying a maximum of 20.223 Remington rifle bullets. The AR-15 is capable of firing as fast as its wielder's fingers can move while in semi-automatic mode. Consider how I fire 3 rounds in quick succession. Is there any realistic reason that a self-defense weapon should be able to fire that fast? Observe how I use the built-in sights to aim better. If a shooter were to use the sights, it would be next to impossible for them to miss. Watch as the weapon reloads. All 20 bullets can be reloaded in mere seconds by a quick-handed wielder, thanks to its use of detachable magazines. If a shooter were to bring extra magazines, the amount of potential victims would be increased greatly. If you pay close attention to the ammunition counter, you will see that when I reload the weapon a second time, the counter increases to 21. This is because a round was already in the chamber when the third magazine was added. Now I will reset the range so all the targets are set back up correctly. This time I will demonstrate the AR-15's dreaded fully automatic mode, in which the weapon effectively becomes a full-on machine gun. Unlike the rifle itself, a special license is required to purchase a weapon that possesses the fully automatic mode, although the fact that it is actually possible to purchase one at all is disturbing. Wow, listen to that. What can best be described as a bloodthirsty mechanical roar. A burst from the AR-15 is like a blast of hellfire. Now, let's see what happens if we fire the entire magazine without stopping. Gosh, blink and you'll miss it. The weapon can fire at up to 900 shots per minute, meaning that it can fire one bullet every 0.066 seconds. This means that it can theoretically kill 20 children in 1.32 seconds. Any sane person would agree that a machine capable of such a feat should have no right to exist. Next, I will use the upgrading interface to demonstrate how the weapon can be customized. These various scripts can be used to reduce the weapon's recoil, making it even easier to kill people with it. This feature is a silencer, also known as a suppressor. It decreases the sound made by the weapon firing, thus making it so potential victims will have a harder time locating and avoiding a shooter. Next comes the most horrifying part yet. This next feature is known as the M203 Ancillary Grenade Launcher. That's right, a grenade launcher. And for a hefty price, one of these military-grade explosive devices can be bought and attached to an AR-15 by civilians. This weapon fires an actual explosive 40mm contact grenade, capable of blowing multiple people into a bloody mess. I can't even fathom why they would let people own these things. Watch as the table and the bottles upon it shatter and scatter everywhere from the force of the explosion. Does that seem at all okay? And remember, that explosion would be much bigger, brighter, louder, and more powerful in real life. And all a shooter has to do is pull the trigger once, and with a small whoosh of compressed air, kaboom. And it's not like it takes a long time to reload the grenade launcher either. Listen to this thing scream like a banshee, an omen of death, a sign that all hell has broken loose. What right does such a horror have to exist? Wielders can also add a laser pointer on the side of their weapon, allowing a shooter to target innocent victims with perfect accuracy, making it even more impossible to survive entering the shooter's line of sight. This is how the AR-15 appears without its signature carry handle / sight. This isn't extremely important information, but it's nice to know. Notice how the muzzle flash lights up the shelter like the glow of a dragon's breath. I will then place the weapon on the ground, allowing you to see the outside of my character's hands. What an ugly thing it is. Next, to further demonstrate how scary this weapon is, I will use the rifle while in motion, against breakable crates, in a more sterile setting other than the summer camp. Note that each crate must be shot twice in order to be destroyed. It takes only one bullet to kill a human. I will utilize all features of the AR-15 to destroy every crate in the area. Felt so wrong. So that was the AR-15. My personal belief is that this weapon should at very least never be allowed in the hands of civilians. And as soon as the government has enough sane people in it to do so, if it ever does, legislation should be passed that bans it. I also believe, to be honest, that the AR-15 and all of its assault rifle sisters from across the world should have never existed in the first place. I do not believe in assault rifles, machine guns, or fully automatic weapons of any kind. However, this is not the end. That segment was for anyone who shares my sentiment. It was to teach fellow gun control advocates exactly what the AR-15 is, so they can know their enemy. Next, I will describe another, much less morbid, weapon. If you are to be discussing gun control, it is very important to be familiar with this specific gun. Although I do not believe that this weapon is an inexcusable thing of evil like the AR-15, I believe that it is very dangerous in the hands of an unstable person and should be heavily regulated. If you think that you need a gun to defend your home and loved ones, chances are you might just be right, depending on where you live. But you don't need an AR-15. It's next to impossible that you'll have to face 20 home invaders at once. Things like that just don't happen. This is a Glock Model 17, or simply Glock 17. It is a semi-automatic pistol designed by the Austrian company Gaston Glock, also known as Glock. It uses the 9mm pistol cartridge, a weaker but still deadly type of bullet common among pistols. The Glock 17 is designed to be compact and quick. It's very likely that you've seen this weapon before, as most police officers in the United States carry one on their hip, alongside its little sister, the Glock 19. The Glock 17 is the most popular law enforcement pistol in the world, and it is also used by some militaries. Due to its high ammunition capacity and fast rate of fire, I believe that the Glock 17, while not nearly as hellish as the AR-15, is still very capable of causing a mass shooting. It's simply too efficient. It is easy to hide, and of course it fires live rounds. Let me show you what I mean. As you can see, if I reload it twice without firing, the Glock 17 gains an additional round just like the AR-15, bringing its capacity up to an effective 18. It is clearly less powerful than the AR-15, but remember, a gun is a gun, and a bullet is a bullet. Now, after watching the Glock 17 fire, you can probably tell why I think it's dangerous. I believe that if the Glock 17 is to be marketed to civilians, which it currently is, there should be exceptionally high regulations around who can buy it, more so than the less powerful firearms. And that brings me to background checks. Background checks should be extremely thorough, and individuals should be screened for mental illness, criminal record, past trauma, or other potential threats. Gun dealers could also require a buyer to refer the dealer to their family or friends to confirm that there is no malintent. Guns should and/or ammunition should be more expensive, and license should always be required in order to buy a gun. The deadlier the gun, the tighter the regulations should be. American citizens should be allowed to have guns, but only the ones who can be trusted with them. If these regulations were put into place, thousands of lives could potentially be saved from utter annihilation. Families kept from being torn apart, hearts kept from being broken. A friend at school suggested that, instead of banning the guns, that we should instead stop manufacturing the ammunition. This could work, but my father seems to have the opposite opinion. I honestly believe that every possible measure should be taken. So you may be asking, what types of guns do I consider less dangerous or less capable of causing a mass shooting? Well, here we go. Say hi to the Mossberg Model 500. A pump-action shotgun capable of housing 20-gauge, 12-gauge, and .410 caliber shotgun shells. The M500 is a shotgun, meaning that a single blast from it is more powerful and thus more deadly than even a bullet from the AR-15. However, unlike the AR-15, the civilian version of the M500 only holds 6 shots. It must be cocked before each shot, thus making fire extremely slow. The weapon is relatively humble, and as far as I can see, it's perfect for any civilian purpose. It's useful for hunting, home defense, plinking, and target shooting, while still being much less capable of committing a mass shooting. Watch and learn. Firstly, notice how slowly the weapon fires. In order to shoot the simulation, I had to press the left mouse button on the computer mouse. At one point during the demonstration, I was madly pressing the left button and it still fired slowly. Unlike the AR-15 or the Glock 17, the M500 is not semi-automatic and thus is much more cumbersome to operate. Next, listen to how loud the weapon is. The M500 is so powerful that the noise it makes could be heard hundreds of yards away. If a shooter attempted to commit a shooting, potential victims would immediately be made aware as soon as the shooter began firing. And watch this. It took me a long time to reload the M500, and I have to flip the gun over in order to do so. I also have to reload each shell individually. This makes it so a shooter would become vulnerable to some heroic someone tackling them while they were reloading. I don't see any reason why you'd need more than 6 shells in order to stop a home invasion, and preferably you wouldn't need any. Introducing the Colt King Cobra, the younger sister to the more famous Colt Python. The Colt King Cobra is a high-powered modern revolver, using the mighty .357 Magnum cartridge. It is optimal for hunting, as the sheer power of its shots can take down large game. Once again, I pressed the left mouse button really quickly, but the weapon was still slow to fire, albeit faster than the M500. It is double action, meaning that it cocks and fires on a trigger pull. In the simulation, the weapon has low recoil, but the real-life kick would be much higher due to the power of the .357 Magnum cartridge. Notice that I still had to reload all the rounds individually. Next, I used the speed loader upgrade, which reloads all 6 bullets at once. This makes the reloading much faster, but the simulation does glorify the reload speed slightly, so it would be slower in real life. Here's the speed loader in action. I believe that the Colt King Cobra and its siblings, the Anaconda and the Python, are appropriate for home defense, hunting, and self-defense. Unlike the M500, the Colt King Cobra is much more portable, so would theoretically be good for defending against kidnappers and sexual predators. However, why not just use a taser? Next, here's a classic. This is obviously a double-barreled shotgun. This one is not manufactured by a specific brand, but it's pretty obvious what it does. I think that, out of all the firearms in the world, a double-barreled shotgun would be the least likely to cause a mass shooting. A double-barreled shotgun, despite being extremely powerful, holds one shell per barrel, meaning it has to reload every 2 shots. This would make it near impossible for a shooter to kill a large amount of people. Watch as my character struggles to control the recoil of each shot. This would make it even harder to commit a shooting. Note that the double-barreled shotgun is capable of firing both barrels at once. Not that this really matters. Now, after all that, I should probably explain this. I personally do not plan to ever own a firearm. However, I maybe would own one of these next 4 non-firearm weapons. This is also the more lighthearted part of the video. This is a crossbow. I was unable to find a suitable simulation of a crossbow that actually worked properly, because this one is really inaccurate. An actual crossbow would be much more accurate than this one. Crossbows are much more simple than firearms, but are surprisingly deadly. See how the crossbow only holds 1 bolt. This, combined with it being almost impossible to conceal, makes it practically incapable of causing a mass shooting. Note how I place a scope on the crossbow. A scope would make the crossbow optimal for hunting. Now, here comes my personal favorite. We're going to switch gears here and go to a different part of the summer camp where I've set up a new course. On the basketball court, I placed a large amount of cardboard boxes and barrels, and also some watermelons. This time around, we won't be using a firearm or a ranged weapon of any kind. Introducing the police baton, my would-be weapon of choice. See how the baton hits hard enough to potentially knock over a barrel, but usually it takes more than 1 blow to do so. A baton is less deadly than other types of weapons, but is still formidable and capable of inhabilitating an intruder. Eventually, all the boxes are crushed and the barrels are knocked over, and the baton has done its work. Here's the baseball bat. I actually do own one of these in real life, but mine is made of metal. This one's made of wood. Watch how quickly the bat breaks down the boxes. Grand slam, I suppose. Finally, we may have what may or may not be the silliest one on the list. That's right, this is a sword. Now, I find it unlikely that there's a sword that looks like this in real life, but it's not much different. Swords are expensive, but they are legal in the United States, and with proper training you can become very skilled with one. See how this sword in particular uses both its weight and its sharpness to cut through the boxes. It can knock over the barrels as well. But here's the thing. Do you really need a weapon at all to defend yourself? In this clip, I present an example of the human body being weaponized through training. The human body is very malleable, and with enough training and exercise, almost any man or woman can turn themselves into a living superweapon that no ruffian, criminal, or scuzzbucket would want to mess with. Examples of this are karate and judo, which allow even a small person to cause massive damage to anyone who messes with them. Garry's mod can not only synthesize weapons and objects, but also living beings. In this case, a highly trained CIA agent with a background in gymnastics. In the clip, I allow the CIA agent to attack me in multiple different ways, using both firearms and her own lower body strength, as I defend myself using a ballistic shield. Of course, an actual human would likely be incapable of doing exactly what the simulated one does here, but it still serves its purpose. The CIA agent is extremely quick. She is capable of doing backflips, cartwheels, and other acrobatic maneuvers while still targeting me. Every time I get close to her, the agent lashes out with a powerful kicking attack before bounding backwards and firing several shots from her pistols. Even though her kicks cannot penetrate my shield, you can still hear the sheer force of her feet striking it. You can also see my character recoil and pull the shield up each time it is struck, indicating that the shield can't entirely absorb the force. And finally, here's me in the simulation using just my fists and my feet to complete the second course. Of course, you probably wouldn't be that powerful, but you see what I mean. But in the end, there's only one real truth to it. You should never really want to find yourself in a situation where you need to own a weapon. Violence is a complicated subject, and there's a lot of arguments going a lot of ways regarding it. In the end, as I sit by the simulated fire next to the lake, my flashlight resting in my gloved hands, I think about all the lives lost to gun violence. I'm angry, I'm sad, and you should be too. I would welcome a change. I hope it comes someday, some night, somehow.